Today, I really would like to just pause a minute and really thank the presenters that are going to be here today. The first presenter in our series today is Laura Allen, and Laura is a math teacher at Oxford Middle School. And Laura came in the fall of 2000, and she began her career as a math teacher at Old Town Middle School in Ridgeland, and then she taught there for 6 years. After that, she came over to Oxford, and she's been there since 2006. And in that, she's taught 7th and 8th grade, and she's also been head of the math department there. So, Laura, thank you so much for being here. We're really pleased to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
And then our second presenter today is Robert Kyle McCartney, and Robert comes to us as the principal of Oxford Middle School and has a long line of educational experience. He has been the principal there for 4 years, and you'll hear today some of the great transitions that they've done and some of the things that they've put in place since he's been there. But his previous experience has been really in the area of special education, and he has been in the education system for over 16 years. And, you know, thank you so much, Robert, for being here as well.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
You bet. I would like to highlight a few things before I turn it over to you guys to get presenting. We're pleased to kind of also announce some of the great accomplishments that Kyle and the Oxford School have accomplished in the last few years, and one of them is, you know, he was chosen as a school leader, and you'll kind of start to understand that today as he goes through what they've been doing. Also featured in Tech and Learning, featured in the Journal, has been a guest blogger with Get Smart talking about the innovation at their school, and was principal of 2014 as model schools. So great accomplishments for a great leader, and very pleased to have you. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kyle and Laura and let them go through all the innovation and the things that they've been doing in their school. So again, thank you for being here, and we look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Michelle. I just want to let everybody know that we're just normal people, of course, but we're just trying a lot of different things at Oxford Middle School, and I have a great staff here, and the reason why we're able to pull off a lot of things that we do is because I may come up with some crazy idea, and I have great faculty members around me that can just say they can do it or they can't do it, but they will give everything they have to give it if it's what's best for kids. Tell you a little bit about our school. Our school is Oxford Middle School, like she said. We're located in Alabama. We're between, if you're on I-20, Interstate 20, between Birmingham and Atlanta. We are the halfway point in between those two places. So a lot of people, and I say this all the time, but a lot of people, if they're driving from Birmingham to Atlanta, they usually stop in Oxford to go get something to eat or find a hotel room or use a restroom or something like that. So we're very fortunate that we're located on the interstate, and we're able to have a lot of tax space because of that. So that will hopefully let you know a little bit about where we are. We're East Alabama. Our school system, like I said a little bit earlier, is we're very fortunate to have such a really good revenue when it comes to taxes. We're able to use those taxes that are dedicated for our school system to help us do these initiatives. But our school system as a whole, we are a blue-collar community. A lot of our people work at a local plant, at a Honda plant that is close by, but also, like I said, Birmingham is close enough so they can drive to work there. So, but the makeup of our school, we are 2 grades at Oxford Middle School. We're not a traditional 6, 7, 8 middle school. We're actually a 7th and 8th grade middle school. We have a 5th grade school that is located right behind us, but we're the 7th and 8th grade only. We are running around 700 kids, anywhere from 650 to 700. As you can tell, we're a very diverse community as well. We also have the same normal makeup of students like everyone does. We're not a affluent community, but we're not a, I guess you could say, a poor community. But we have the same type of struggles that everyone does, and we try to do our best that we can every single day with those students. One thing that is actually a misnomer about our district, if you ever happen to be going that way and you're from Georgia or somewhere like that and you see Oxford, when you're driving down the interstate, you'll see our high school. It is a very big high school facility-wise. It actually looks like a small college. So people will always assume that we are a very wealthy community. But like I said a little bit earlier, our school system just did a really good job of setting up our infrastructure and our tax base so that we have 1% that is coming from our city school system, but also we have 1% of taxes that come to us from our county. So a lot of that goes through certain initiatives also for facilities. And you can see here from our fast facts, 60% of our students, though, are free and reduced lunch students. So even though we have nice facilities, we have nice technology, and we're one-to-one, and we'll talk about that more a little bit later, our students are still just normal students, and they're not from a wealthy family necessarily. Now, we do have some students that may live in a $1 million home and then sitting right beside the kid that might live in a rental or something like that. So we have, across the board, we have every student you can imagine. So hopefully we try to make sure we're personalizing our education for those kids, the rich and also the non-rich, but also students that are many different diverse populations. And one thing that we wanted to show was this right here. This is something that the state of Alabama puts out. It's actually the Sanford University, which is located in Birmingham. They do a study. It's called the Park Report. I'm not sure exactly what that stands for. Actually, I usually do. But it is basically what they're doing is they're doing an analysis of where tax money goes and one of the things where tax revenue goes to is schools. So they evaluate schools, and what they do is they're looking at this point, at this report right here, they're looking at school systems, and they're comparing their white population and their black population, and then at the very bottom you'll see they're also comparing the non-poverty population to the poverty population. And anything, as you can see right there, this is our school system, grades 3 through 8, and if you're above the state average, you get a green bar right there by, like if you see grade 3, it'll say test, math, and then you'll see across percent at level 4. And level 4 is the highest level you can get in the state of Alabama on that exam. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Level 4, we have 70% of our kids in 3rd grade that were at level 4 or above. But you also see that very last column right there where it says 64.9%. That's a green bar. That means that we're above the state average. The state average was 64.9%, which scored 70%. So we're above that. You can go all the way down there and you can see the green. The darker the green, the higher above the state average that you are. In other words, you're significantly higher than the state average. The red means that you're a little bit below the state average, and if you see dark red, it's because you're way below the state average. But then the last part, and I'm sorry, Michelle, I'm sort of going on this. This is one of my favorite things. The very last part right there where it says gap between the two groups, you can see there's gold bars there. A gold is what you want, which means that your white population and your black population are above the state average, and they're also exceeding well above the state average at the same rate. So you'll see if you get a gold bar, that means you're doing that well in both of those subcategories. And then the same thing at the bottom, if both your non-poverty and your poverty are above the state average, then you get a gold bar. One of our biggest accomplishments with this exam, or with this analysis, you can see, is we ranked 3rd in the school systems out of 137 in the state for the most gold bars. In our middle school, like I said, we have 7th and 8th grade. We got gold bars in white versus black, also non-poverty versus poverty analysis. So we got 4 out of 4 stars, and we're very proud of that, gold bars. I guess you could say gold stars is too. But we're proud of that, so that's one thing that we're doing. But you can also see achievement-wise, we were 20th out of 137, so we're also achieving at a high level. All right, how do we do it? That's one thing that we're here for today, and we want to talk about that. One thing we've done, like Michelle said, I've been here for, this is my 4th year. Over the past 4 years, we've definitely implemented several initiatives. One of the main things that we have done is a one-to-one initiative, and Laura's about to talk about that in just a minute, and then we'll also get deeper into that. But we've also made sure we've included other professional developments. The first is differentiated PD, which is, if you look at the two below that, gradual release and quality questioning, those are the 2 of our differentiated PDs that we have provided to our teachers. We wanted to make sure our teachers, the gradual release process, as a lot of you know that are educators, that basically means not just the teacher being the sage on the stage every single day. They want to release the responsibility to the students. So not just them doing it, but they want the kids to be able to do it. So we were teaching teachers how to not do, there's 4 stages, and we'll go over that in just a minute, but get away from this I do and get all the way up to the you do part of the gradual release. And then quality questions, making sure that our teachers are asking good questions to our students. They're asking deep level questions where students have to think and not just give a very easy answer right back, but also students asking the teacher good questions, good probing questions that sort of help enhance the learning process. And also you'll see on the other side, this sort of goes along with our one-to-one initiative. We've definitely focused on active engagement for our students. We wanted to make sure that our computers, if we went that route, which we did, we didn't want them to just be a worksheet in which the students do or just a game tool or something like that. We want to teach our kids how to use computers to be better in today's society and not just use them for entertainment purposes. And then we wanted to make sure we're integrating that technology into our everyday lessons and blended learning, which is one of, I think, in my opinion, one of our best things. We were able to actually use the technology, but also use, like I say, old school teaching. So just teach the kids and also make sure they know everything that's going on in a blended environment. So those are the things that we sort of have done over the past 4 years, and we're going to highlight some of those for you in just a second.
As we were transitioning to a one-to-one school, we wanted to make sure that we kept in mind our gradual release, and we wanted to fold in a blended learning model into a lot of our classrooms. As we were doing that, at the same time, we were looking at our scores, and we noticed that there was a trend in our math scores over our reading scores. Our math scores were lagging behind in both grades behind our reading, and so it made us question what we were doing different with our reading that we were not doing with our math. And one of the things that we noticed is that for several years we've had a reading intervention time that provided extra support for those students that needed and provided enrichment opportunities for the students that were above grade level. And we have been doing that for several years on top of their ELA class. Well, we decided that we were going to start developing our principal wanted to develop a time at the beginning of the school day called Power Math that did the same thing, that every student for the same time and every teacher would be focused on math. And one of the things we wanted to keep in mind is that we were moving towards a one-to-one basis and towards the computer-based learning. So we had a plan to develop our Power Math program, and this was in combination with us going into one-to-one school. As that was being decided, we knew we were moving to one-to-one. The complete process took about 3 years to implement. As we began to implement the one-to-one initiative, we knew as a school and district we wanted to focus on active engagement, blended learning, and keeping that gradual release cycle with the teachers. So year one began with each teacher receiving their own Mac and each team having a Mac cart to use. We focused on implementing PBL, or project-based learning projects, through the ELA and social studies department. And we also wanted to prepare our 7th grade students that were transitioning into 8th grade, where they would begin using a learning management system in year 2. Year 2, every 7th and 8th grade student was issued a Mac that was actually kept at school that year to charge overnight. We continued to implement PBL across all disciplines while teachers were trained on the Mac tools and learning management system tools through a PD we refer to as Tech Tuesday. This provided teachers with tools and ideas of how we could effectively use our technology to increase engagement while truly holding on to the blended learning environment. So as we focused in on our Power Math and what we wanted our Power Math classroom to look like, we wanted to break it up into 3 basic groups. The students needing intervention, our students needing practice, and then our students that needed acceleration. For our intervention, we knew that we wanted to remediate the students that were performing 1 or more grade levels below. And so we wanted to go with more of a gradual release cycle where the teacher was providing that direct instruction and then moving into where they would do problems together to students would do problems with other students and then eventually independently. We used a scripted program for that. The second stage was our practice stage. This is where we implemented Odysseyware, the CART program, to provide practice and lessons for students who were on grade level, with teachers acting more as a facilitator while providing support for the students who needed help with any standards that they weren't grasping on their own. Each student eventually in a classroom of 25 could all really be on different standards at the same time, depending on how fast they moved through a particular lesson or not. The third stage and the third level we had was our acceleration, because we also realized we had those students who were above grade level, who had mastered all the standards and were doing well. And so we actually broke that acceleration into two different levels. We created a maker class, and we also brought in higher level coursework for our 7th and 8th graders. And Mr. McCartney is going to talk about that in just a second.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Allen. Yeah, like I said a little bit earlier, I just wanted to sort of reiterate that, I guess you could say, is this idea, I felt like it was a really good idea because, you know, I sort of helped come up with it, but also I cannot implement these ideas without the good staff and the faculty that I have. And honestly, the idea would have been nothing without the catalysts and the people that actually work behind the scenes to make this work. And like any good idea, I guess you could say, is it started as something and it's sort of grown into something else. It is exactly the same thing that we envisioned at the beginning, but it has grown, it has matured, it's gotten a little bit better with age, I guess you could say. So we're definitely very proud of that. Like I talked about a little bit earlier about the gradual release process, if you'll see right there on the right side of your slide, you can see the gradual release process, which means I do, we do, you do it together, you do it alone. In Alabama, instead of you do it together, we say y'all do it. So it's basically the same thing. But so you can hear it either way when you're in the South. But level one, like Ms. Allen said, every summer when we're doing scheduling, I'm one of the people who does the scheduling. I'm actually the main one. So I look at the benchmarking tools that we have, and we do benchmarking throughout the year. We benchmark our students in the fall, in the winter, and also in the spring. And there's also a state assessment that we give in the spring as well. So I use all that data to try to find where our students are performing, whether they're performing on grade level, below grade level, or above grade level. So I try to divide the classes up on the 3 different tiers. And each kid, what I do is try to use a clean break, I guess you could say, and find out where our kids are falling in. Mainly the kids that are at our main level 3, which we'll get to in just a minute, are the 90th percentile and above, the kids that are able to master the standards at grade level, but also master the grade level above them standards. So they can do that. All right, the first, though, is the level 1 students. These are students in which we use a scripted program. We use VMath at this time. It is a Voyager product, and what we do is the teacher actually has, it's not really a script, but it sort of tells them how to teach the lesson. Through the level 1 process, like I said, the Power Math, all teachers in the school building teach math for 30 minutes at the beginning of the day. Every single teacher. That's the choir teacher, the band teacher, the PE teachers, the math teachers, the English teachers, the science teachers, and the social studies teachers. And I will tell you, the very first hiccup, I guess you could say, I had to get over, the hurdle I had to get over at the very first, the beginning of the Power Math idea was, how do you sell an English teacher and let them know, well, I need you to teach math for the first 30 minutes of the day. And the way you do that is, and the way we have been able to pull it off was, if we have the VMath program, it is a scripted program that basically says, here's what you say, here's how you do it, here's what you say when they say this, and this is how you react to it. And like Michelle said a little bit earlier, my background is in special education, so I really love personalization when it comes to any type of instruction, whether it be mathematics, English, literature, science, social studies. So it was sort of up my alley, and I also used to teach VMath as a special ed teacher, so that's sort of how we pulled that in. So that's for teachers who were unexperienced, but we do have some math teachers that do VMath for the kids that are way below grade level, but also the teachers that are PE teachers and all that. They like our routine, so they're really good with the VMath program. And that's our level 1. All right, level 2 is where we use OdysseyWare. That's where it fits in. And as you look at the gradual release process, it's not just from the I do it problem, it's all the way down into the you do it alone, which we say you do it alone in the gradual release process, but you're actually not doing it alone. You're using a computer, and you're using the OdysseyWare course curriculum. We're using CART, the Common Core Assessment Remediation tool that comes along with OdysseyWare, and the students actually do a pretest on each standard. It'll give them a pretest on, let's say, standard 7.1, and they do a pretest on math standard 7.1, and if they're able to do it, then it is smart enough to know to move them on to 7.2. If it knows they can't do it, and we set our threshold at 75% for mastery, so if they can't do it, it puts them through a lesson, in which they're able to do the lesson at their own pace, and then it gives them a post-test after that lesson. If they can't do the post-test and they still are below the 75%, then it puts them through a second lesson. And we say do that again, and then after that lesson, they get another post-test. If they're at 75% and above, they move on to 7.3. If they're not, then they may move on. Then it lets the teacher know. It locks them out of the program. It doesn't really lock them out. It just tells the teacher. It sends the teacher a message. It says, Johnny over there on 7.2 has taken the test twice. He's unable to do this, so you might want to have some further instruction. So the teacher can then go over to the student, try to figure out what the interference is, and try to help the student out. And a lot of times teachers are, like I said, math teachers. They may be English teachers, but they feel comfortable in their role. So it does take a little bit of preparation on their part, but it also sort of helps them be able to personalize the education for them. And that's how we use OdysseyWare for our Power Math time at that time. And then our next part is our Power Math. Like I said, we divide it up into 3 different levels. Level 3 is our maker classes. So kids that actually take OdysseyWare and they go through the CAR program and they're able to master all the standards. As soon as they master all the standards, we don't see any reason to hold them back. So what we do is, after they master the standards, if they're in 7th grade, we give them the 8th grade card after that. And after they've mastered all the standards in 8th grade, then we have another few classes in which we have teachers. Our technology teacher, we actually even have a math teacher who has a background in computer science. So we teach the kids how to do, one of the classes is a maker class where they can sort of choose their own passion projects in which they can work on things like robotics. We have one student who just built a hovercraft using our 3D printer and also some wood from the house. So he was able to make his own hovercraft, and he actually even put a camera on it, and it's pretty neat. And we even have one group of students who just built their own board game, and hopefully we'll be able to push that out to show other people, you know, the board game that they made, and it may be a very successful game because it's pretty cool. And what they did was they used the 3D printer that we purchased. We have 2 of them in that class, and so they can design their own game pieces, their own ideas, and all that. It goes with that. But then also we have another class for kids that for coding. Like I said about the other teacher, she has a background in computer information, so she actually knows how to code in HTML, JavaScript, Python, anything like that. So she teaches the kids using Scratch and also using some more advanced coding methods how to do technology projects. Those kids compete in our technology fair. We were very successful in that. We actually won a lot of gold medals when it comes to our technology fair in our local technology fair, and then we have our state technology fair, which starts tomorrow. So our local winners hopefully will do very well when it comes to that as well. But that's what we did the very first year using OdysseyWare. And like I said, and like Ms. Allen said, was when we went to the computer base, we didn't want our computers to just be something that was going to be used just to do the same thing every single year. But in order to enhance it, we wanted to find a computer program that sort of went along with it. And OdysseyWare is one thing we have found that really has helped us. So the other part of that level 3, you could say, is we had some kids, when we did this Power Math idea 2 years ago, not this year but last year, we gave them a 7th grade card. They probably finished it in about a week. We gave them the 8th grade card. They were able to finish that in about another week. So then they were actually in a pre-algebra class in their math class that was separate than their Power Math. But since they were able to go ahead and master all the 7th grade standards and 8th grade standards, and they actually showed that on the test as well, we moved them into an Algebra 1 class in 7th grade. That's the first time we've ever done that. It's the first time it's ever been done in Alabama that I know of. So our kids actually took Algebra 1 in 7th grade instead of pre-algebra. And right now they're in geometry in 8th grade. So they'll go into high school and they'll be taking Algebra 2 with trig their 9th grade year, as opposed to most students take Algebra 2 with trig in Alabama their 11th grade year. So they're doing their 9th grade year. If they go along the progression, and they'll be done with AP Calculus BC by the end of their 12th grade year. So that's what we're hoping. And that's the first time we've ever done that. And basically what we did was we decided that we wanted to personalize our educational experience. And if our kids can do it and they can excel at it at a high level, then let's don't hold them back, and let's take the walls down and let's get out of their way and let's help them excel in whatever they can do very well. And we have a group doing it right now also, the 2nd year group. And the first group is about 20 students. This group is about 12 for the 2nd year. So we had a little bit of less students that were able to excel, but we were able to pick those out because they were also able to excel at a high level. So that's how we did that. that's the first part of our the way we use ICWare. We used it for our Power Math classes, like I said, and if you know about gradual release, you'll be able to see the way we use those triangles. Hopefully that helps you be able to see the way we used it.
Great. Kyle, I was just going to stop here real quick and just let people know, please submit your questions through the question panel. If you have any questions, be happy to share those with Kyle and Laura and get them to respond as we go through the session. So right now, Kyle, there doesn't look to be any questions, so I'll let you just go right on.
And one of the things that we decided to do as a school, we really wanted to focus on differentiated learning. And the first focus was differentiated learning with the students. But our principal really decided and really wanted to focus on differentiated learning for our faculty as well. And so the whole idea of differentiated professional development was really kind of brought to fruition a few years ago. And it started the first year with 2 courses that were going to be offered to our faculty. The first one being a gradual release cycle, and the second one being what we wanted to do as a book study called quality questioning. And the way that we placed our faculty into either one of those professional development cycles was through instructional rounds, and looking at some of the data that was gathered from there, we were able to place some of our faculty in our gradual release cycle and some of them into the professional development for quality questioning. The second year, the teachers that took the quality questioning cycle, or that professional development, actually turned around training to the other teachers on their team that year and taught quality questioning there. This provided a lot of good conversations among departments and in between departments and cross-curricular, and really had us focus on, as a school, how we were questioning our students and what problems and what issues were we posing to our students and how were they questioning us. So it really brought about a lot of change. After that year, we ended up moving into implementing a Bazinga group for our new teachers, which was really more of a mentoring group. During that time, the year 3, they were able to recap the quality questioning and as well the gradual release cycle to the new teachers, whereas everybody else ended up going into focusing on our Tech Tuesday, differentiating our tech tools, and certain teachers were going into, and this is right around the same time that everybody was going one-to-one. And so some teachers were going to some professional development, going into our learning management system, looking at tools that were going to be able to be used in our classroom and how we could better engage and use the computers, not just as an electronic worksheet, but how we could truly engage our students with the technology. Some of our other teachers really needed to go through some of the tools because we were all going Mac-based, and most of our teachers really never had worked on a Mac before we all received them. So depending on their needs, they were placed in those PDs. This year, we've transitioned our PD into really going into by content. For example, our English language arts and our social studies were meeting together and really focused on and studied close reading. Our math focused on our standards and how we can implement common formative assessment for each standard and what we could do with those results. And then our science, actually, as we are moving towards the next generations of science standards, they really focused on data analysis. Instead of just teaching students rote memorization from the science book, really focusing on that. And that's what we've been doing this year. We've also utilized and implemented flipped faculty meetings and data meetings where we utilize a faculty group within our learning management system. This is provided where we go and actually listen, and if we need to meet together, it's really more of an active time of learning and discussing actual students' needs where we've done the work beforehand. Our district has already also provided us with 4 flex professional development days for the past 2 years, where teachers can choose what training or professional development opportunities they want to attend. We have teachers that have utilized ed camps as well as other workshops that they may not have chosen to go to otherwise. So it's been very successful As far as differentiating the PD, the faculty's really bought into the whole idea of that, and it's provided a good model of what they want to see in our classrooms, of how they want us to differentiate our instruction to the students by providing that example for the faculty.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, that is one thing I do feel like we try to make sure that we focused on. You can see right here with this article that sort of comes in. We wanted to make sure that not only did we focus on the student needing differentiation, but also our teachers as well, because it's a different way of teaching for our teachers. We're so used to handing out a worksheet or teaching a lecture and then being able to do the worksheet or do a test and grade the test, give the test back to the student. But when we went to one-to-one and we have computers now, everything is available to us instantaneously. So we were able to teach the teachers to teach like that or be able to instruct like that. And one thing we did, like Laura said, was the Tech Tuesdays have been very successful. We actually have everyone come in because we have a team approach here at the middle school in which we have teams of teachers, 2 math teachers, 2 English teachers, a science teacher, and social studies on each team. So they meet together at a certain time, and then that way they can sort of collaborate, and also we can sort of tell them the certain things that we like to see them do when it comes to, or implement when it comes to summative assessment, the gradual release process, all that stuff. So we actually have them for a little bit of time, so that way we don't have to do so much instruction and professional development after school. And like Laura said, one thing I really do like that we have done, we have Blackboard as our learning management system in Oxford, so we're able to put stuff up for faculty meetings. So if I need everyone to see certain things, instead of having to come into a room and distribute it that way, I can distribute it through Blackboard. So they're able to pull it up, be able to find it, but then also go back to it. So a lot of times what I will do is I will actually do the faculty meeting on my computer and videotape it, and that way, and I'll put the documents in Blackboard so the teachers can go back and watch it again. So as a principal and as an administrator, they can say, well, you didn't say that. And I say, well, you know, I actually would do that. But I could, you know, I could say, well, you need to go back and watch the faculty meeting because we addressed that. And so hopefully, if they ask me a question, instead of me having to reteach it, I could just say, go watch the faculty meeting. You can see what we're going to do with that. And then they will. And then it actually helps out. And what we do to hold accountability for that is just make sure they come by the office and sign in and say that they watched it. And it's the same way as having a sign-in sheet for the faculty meetings that you would normally have. But the accolades that we've had, as you can see, we were actually featured in Tech and Learning magazine. As you'll see back on the past slide, the realities of one-to-one, that sort of went over a one-to-one initiative. And then also the journal did an article on us on this year. And then recently we just had a post through gettingsmart.com, which is where a lot of my ideas even come from, to be honest with you. So I thought it was a really cool thing to have them ask me to be able to write something up, because I've been reading that blog for about 3 years, and a lot of my ideas come from there. So I felt like it was a really good honor to be able to be featured on that. So if you ever get a chance, go to gettingsmart.com and just get some good ideas, because they're really good ideas to get from them. So we talked about the first part of how we use OdysseyWare to implement and to help us sort of bridge the gap of our students that were sort of falling behind. That way we can sort of find out who they are. The second thing we did, we started that this year. We actually started around Christmas of this year. We gave a common assessment, I can't even speak, common formative assessment to students right after Christmas time. And what we were testing was, all of you that know the Common Core Standards for math, it's equations and expressions, or expressions and equations standard. It's short EE1 or EE2 is what, and there's 3 and there's 4 also. But they're actually talking about expressions. And what we did was, as a staff, we sort of sit down and we try to figure out what the foundational part of pre-algebra, 8th grade math, 7th grade math, algebra, geometry, all those kind of things. We wanted to make sure our kids had the actual basic building blocks when it comes to mathematics. And one thing we identified was the expressions and equations standards. And if you're looking through those, and you'll see that the expressions and equations 1 and 2 in 7th grade are really a very strong building block when it comes to mathematics. When we gave that assessment, you can see the results there from test 1. We had 78% of our kids that were below the 59%, when it came to taking that test. Only 7% were 80% and above, and that's what we wanted all of them to be, and 15% were between 60 and 80. So we had to find some way to address those needs so that our students would be prepared for in the future and harder math in the future. So what we did was we were able to use OdysseyWare, and we'll talk about it in just a minute, but you can see that after our instruction that we used through our math classes and through OdysseyWare, we were able to improve our scores from 78% that were below 59 percentile to 40%. And then the biggest part I saw was a 7% from the kids that were 80% and over went up to 37%. So that's something we're very proud of, and make sure that we're able to sort of talk about that, because we wanted to show that we had a laser focus and wanted to make sure that we were able to try to root out where the issues were and try to help improve those so we can help in the future. That's 7th grade. When we focus, like I said, we focus on expressions and equations 1 and 2, and you can see we broke it down this way from the standards. Expression and equations standard 1 has a lot to do with linear expressions and rational coefficients, and then also expressions and equations 2, you can also see that, but it's rewriting expressions in different forms. So basically just being able to write in a good expression and be able to understand and evaluate expressions. So we wanted to make sure our kids could do that. And after the first test, you can see our growth from the first test to second test in EE1 and EE2. So you can see the growth, and that really helped us out. Same thing happened for 8th grade, but in 8th grade, instead of just doing 2 standards on the common formative assessment, we actually assessed 4. So we did expressions and equations 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the same results, and the same thing happened. Our growth, though, from our 81 percentile and above went from 22% to 57%, so that's really cool. And then our 68% went down from 63% of our kids were below the 68% to only 29, and 14 are right there in the middle. And the same thing we did in 7th grade, though. We tested expressions and equations 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in a lot of those, you can see those. They're a little bit different standards, but they all are sort of building on the same thing. So they are the foundations, in our opinion, for being successful in algebra and in the future in mathematics as well. But on the next slide, you'll be able to see that they were able to do all 4 in 8th grade as opposed to just 2. So I guess you're asking, or hopefully you're asking, how did we do it? We did use OdysseyWare. We just used it the same way that we've always used it. And we used it in PowerMath the same way. That didn't change. But what we did was now we sort of picked it up also and used it in the mathematics classes, not just in the PowerMath classes. So the PowerMath kept going on. The same thing that we established from year 1 with using PowerMath, we kept doing that. We kept doing it from year 1 to year 2. But one thing that we did, we sort of laser focused our PowerMath attack. And how we did it was we had the kids and we were able to actually put them. If you're looking at the CART program in OdysseyWare, you can see that it has the standards in there. It actually has the number sense standards, the expressions and equations standards, the geometry standards, the statistics standards. You can see all those. But you can also create your own course. So we pulled those standards that were out. We pulled the expressions and equations standards out, and we pulled those separate. We made our own course, and we just called it expressions and equations. And every kid in our PowerMath class that was not in the maker class or in the geometry class or in the coding class, they had to go through that module. They had to take this course. They had to do the pre-test. They had to do the lessons. If they pre-tested out, they had to do the lesson. But they did pre-test, lesson, post-test, just like that. And we put them through that for 2 weeks. And if they are able to finish the expressions and equations, we had other courses created. We had a course just for geometry, a course just for statistics, and a course just for number sense. So they could take those. And then also we gave another exam, as you can see. We gave one that sort of was over the entire, we use a product that is called USA Test Prep, and they were able to actually assess them on a mock type Aspire ACT exam, which we had to take last week. And so it showed us what areas they were the weakest and the strongest in. So what we did was we ranked those. If that was their weakest area, our next thing after expressions and equations was to go to their weaker area in that, according to that assessment. So if it was geometry, they took geometry. For that, they took, if they needed to take statistics, that's what they took. So that's how we ranked it. Then we also, part 2 of that was in the core classroom, we made sure our teachers were using this approach as well. They were able to use the technology through OdysseyWare. They were collaborating together, sort of talking about how are you doing this, how are you doing that. They were actually having open conversations about it. They were able to, by using this Odyssey Warrior program and also our USA Test Prep, they knew which kids needed what things. So they're able to personalize their groups. They're able to do small groups. They pulled to the side and they said, we need to work on this with this certain group of students, and then they were able to give another project for another group of students where they could work independently. And then also we had stations in which they could rotate through. Everyone has seen that kind of model. That's our blended approach when it comes to teaching. We do a stations approach. We have a teacher station. We have a station where they may work on their computers. We have a station where they may be working on projects. So they're able to do that in the core classroom. And then the kids that were actually way ahead of the game and they were able to pick this stuff pretty fast, we were able to do application projects. So you could see them actually working on things that were mathematics related, but they're able to do a project to sort of apply the concept that they have learned. So hopefully, we'll see good results. Maybe a lot of times, as you can see in education, if you can put your hands on something and you can actually apply it and do it, then it'll stick with you. If you just memorize something, a lot of times it goes away from you. So hopefully we'll see them be able to excel even further. And like I said, we just took our state assessment last week, so let's hope it went out pretty well as well. So hopefully it stuck with them.
So how did our blended learning look overall for the classroom? And if you look at our what we did for blending learning as far as what it looked like in the classroom, we really wanted to focus on the individual path and pace of the student. We wanted to meet students where they were and push them at their own level. So, and it looked different for different students. We wanted to make sure that we focused on small groups. We do a lot of enforcement, or a lot of focus on formative assessments and how we place them based on what's teaching and what we're teaching in the classroom, and really small grouping them, looking at what they need. We want to make sure that our classroom looks engaging, that it's fun and it's learning, but we're also making sure that we are covering our standards that need to be covered. If you go into every classroom you walk in, we have really seen an improvement with the students being engaged in what they are covering in that classroom. One thing that's unique for our school is our structure and how we are structured. We are a team-based school. We have 5 teams where each team has 2 English teachers, 2 math teachers, and a science and social studies. And that really allows us to kind of create a little family within inside the team. We're able to meet together as, cross-curricular and discuss student needs cross-curricular. We're able to meet together and discuss project-based learning. We're also able to meet together to really help each other out. I know science and math have really partnered well this past few years, as well as social studies and ELA. We wanted to be adaptive. We want to make sure that we are trying to stick with the latest trends, but really sticking also with what works, the gradual release cycle, but also trying new things and never being afraid to fail. At least we've tried to see that things have worked. That's one thing that our leadership has really focused on, that, if you're going in and you really want to try something new, and if it doesn't work, that's fine. We don't stick with it, but if it does, we're successful, and we keep that in mind. And we found a lot of success with some of the things that we've implemented over the past few years. We want to meet and teach students where they are and provide that support for them. Mr. McCartney?
Hey, Michelle, that's what we have. We're ready to take questions, though, whenever you're ready.
Great. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you so much for the information and just kind of the background and kind of where you got from, your beginning of this and where you are today. It's been an interesting and a fascinating story for me to follow with you guys, and I really appreciate you sharing. Kyle, I'm going to click out real quick to okay, so a couple of questions have come in. One of them is related to kind of the adoption from your faculty in regards to, how they adopted this and kind of their perception and some of the obstacles and also successes you had in doing that with, using the full faculty.
Yeah, that's usually the number one question, so I expected that one to be coming. To be honest with you, we were very successful with it. I don't know how. I really was very much dreading being able to try to pull it off. Like Laura said, we always did a reading enrichment class at our school for the past 4 or 5 years. So when we added a math side of it as well, it sort of was just accepted. Like, why have we not been doing math if we've been doing reading? So they all understood it. But also, we had to strategically place certain people to their strengths. If a teacher was more suited for the VMath side of things, the Voyager product, the actual scripted program, then we tried to put them there. If we felt like they'd be better off using the OdysseyWare program in which they can do more of a monitoring and a reteaching part when kids don't understand, we try to put them there. And then even, like I said, with the maker class, we had to find people who that was their strength, because we didn't want to put a teacher in there and say, hey, I want you to do coding. The teacher didn't know how to do coding, then there's no way they could teach a kid how to do it. So we were very fortunate to having 2 or 3 people on staff that were able to do maker and to do 3D printing and to do coding, but then also their strength was being able to do small group instruction, not just the coding side of it. Some people just cannot, they may not be able to teach mathematics, so we wanted to make sure we were able to provide them with the tool. And there was never really any revolt or anything against it, of course not, but there was some skepticism. I guess I had to do a big sell job, I guess you could say. I am very mobile. If you come to our school, you will never find me in my office. I'm usually in somewhere walking up the halls. So if someone is worried about it, I will be in there, and I will just say, look, and I'll even walk in there. Every now and then I'll walk in and I'll teach a lesson. Our assistant principal, she was actually, one of our assistant principals was an instructional partner, and what that is really just an instructional coach. And what she coached teachers how to do was how to do scripted programs in reading and math. So she's able to do that. So she helps me a lot when it comes to that. And then our other assistant principal was an English teacher. So he understands the apprehensions when it comes to having to teach math, but also he knows how to, do what's best for the kids, and so do our teachers. So if they feel like we're doing what's best for children or for the students, then they're all for it.
Great.
And you do that same thing for your staff as well.
Yeah, no, that's really great, and I love hearing that you go in there and you're just as much part of it as your teachers. I think that's a great example. One of the other questions that came in is really asking, where do you go from here? What's your roadmap, for just continuing to improve? I'm sure you have lots of ideas there.
That's a great question too, because honestly, I've been struggling that with the past few weeks. Not really struggling, but I'm just, I'm trying to think, because I do not want to get stale. One thing I cannot stand is for something to be stale, but also I don't want to put too much on people too often either. So in other words, I have ideas all the time, and I want to do stuff all the time, and I have people like Miss Allen or people that are also in our leadership team that can say, look, that's a good idea, but let's hold off on that for right now. And, my assistant principals, they'll say, we can do that. We can do that, but do we want to do that right now? So we have good conversations. Where I want to go from here is I want to make sure that our students are all ready for the 21st century, because the same jobs that I went to school for, which, like I tell everybody, ever since I was 5 years old, when they asked me what I wanted to do when I grow up, it was to be a principal of a school. I don't know why. That's what I always wanted to do. My mom works in a school, so I guess that's it. But I want our kids to be prepared to be engineers, to be computer technology people, to be IT support, to be whatever it's going to take, and I don't want to teach them for careers that don't exist. So whenever the economy changes and adapts, and the work field also changes and adapts, I want to be able to do that as well. And I do have some ideas for next year. I don't know if they'll work or not, but I have some. And so we'll try those. And if they don't work, then we'll scrap those and try something else. And like Ms. Allen said earlier, we'll try anything. And I have a really good staff when it comes to, they'll give anything a shot, to give it a try for kids. And if it's not right, I'm not scared to bail out in a second either. Now, sometimes I might bail out too soon and not give it time to go all the way through it. And I'll have teachers also tell me, say, just give it a little bit more time. It'll be fine. And then it does work out just fine. So, good question. I don't know the answer. I wish I did.
Okay, maybe if others have a roadmap ideas, they can send it in and help you out as well, Kyle. So one of the questions Laura wanted to ask you in regards to kind of being in this teaching situation with these students, can you talk about the students' just response to what you're doing and kind of how, what their response is directly?
Yes. With the Power Math, the students, when we started in on this last year was our first year to actually implement the Power Math program. Most of our students were really on board with going into a classroom. It's 30 minutes and it's at the beginning of the day, and getting that extra help. And what we found last year, because, I mean, we were a little bit skeptical. I mean, you know, we have a full block for math and then they're spending the first 30 minutes. But we would find that students would come to the math classroom asking questions based off things that they were working on in Power Math. And so it provided a lot of discussion and opened up a lot of discussion that way within the classroom, that they were coming in bringing in questions, that it really wasn't just teacher-facilitated questions. It was becoming a lot of student-facilitated questions. So the students have done a really good job with the Power Math program. As far as the blended learning, it's amazing to see the students take ownership of their learning, to come in and to, you know, maybe extend some things that have been discussed in the classroom, not just necessarily a math classroom, but being in an ELA classroom or a social studies classroom, and extend their learning, going out on their own and finding things that are related to what's going on in that classroom. You'll walk in the hallways, you will walk in the classroom, and you do not really have an issue with students not being engaged. They are wanting to take part in what's going on in that classroom. It's very important to make it relevant to them and to make it relevant to the real world, because that's where they start buying into what you're doing.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You know, right now there's not any other questions coming in, but I would like to just take a minute and really thank you, Kyle and Laura, for just your time. We really appreciate you taking your time out of the year. At this time of year, we know how difficult time is as you're starting to wind down and work with all of your testing and the kids and closing up school. So we really appreciate that. And I just wanted to also highlight, you know, our Leading Change series has just started, and what a great way to start it with Oxford. But we also have another Leading Change webinar coming up, and we want to invite you to our May 13th webinar, and we'll be sending this information out to you along with the recorded link of the session. So you will be getting a link to today's session as well as the recording, and a link where you can register for this next webinar. And then, you know, lastly, I just wanted to do a real quick highlight of, you know, we've talked a lot about different programs, different things that Oxford has used. And, you know, one of the things that they, you know, spoke of today is the OdysseyWare product. And OdysseyWare has, you know, a lot of content that goes across a lot of different areas. And so, you know, if you're interested in that and you aren't currently using the program, we encourage you to go on to their website, take a look at what they have. They meet a lot of needs where schools are today as far as really trying to get children ready for the future, you know, talking about their career-based technology, really addressing things through the Common Core and supporting those needs in the school. So we want to just, you know, open your eyes to that, and please feel free to go onto the website and take a look at that. Finally, we will be sending out a thank you email to everybody who attended today, and that will encompass the link for today's session. It will also have some contact information for myself, and if you have questions for Kyle and Laura, you know, please feel free to send those to me. I'll be happy to filter those over to them. Both of them do have a Twitter account and a LinkedIn account, so if you'd like to join or follow them, please feel free to do that as well. So Kyle and Laura, thank you so much, and those on the phone that joined us today, thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your day. We really appreciate it, and we hope you really have a great week. So Kyle and Laura, thank you, and I look forward to it. Yeah, no, thank you so much. We will be talking to you very soon.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.